Now, our next speaker is Senator Niall Donnghaile. You have 8 minutes.
Maigad alas caharda agus gur maigad aire comai as a bhéilin te faru na fáilte rotanan ceist santasa tawata starul seo flay an Oct Minister. I want to welcome you to the House and thank you for being here as well. In doing that, Minister, I also want to acknowledge the leadership role undertaken in relation to the 8th Committee by our colleague Senator Catherine Noon, and indeed colleagues who were members of that committee. I'm very conscious, as I rise to speak here tonight, Minister, of the historical and political significance of this bill. Conscious of the privilege it affords me to be part of the democratic process. And what this bill seeks to do, regardless of much of the noise around it, I have to say mostly outside of these houses, what this bill seeks to do is to extend to the citizens of this state that same privilege, to be part of the democratic process, to be able to have their say. And in keeping with the spirit of this debate so far, I respect that there will be a divergence of views, some of them deeply held, in relation to the broader theme surrounding this issue. But I believe it would be remiss not to say that I'm amazed by people who would come in and laud the democratic process, but then vote against a bill that would seek to give citizens a say. The Constitution shouldn't be written in stone. As other speakers have said much more articulately and better than I could, it has been well over 30 years since people have had their say in relation to what I believe and will contest and will argue is a bad law. And it is a bad law that has failed women. It is a bad law that has seen women lose their lives as a result of its insert into the Constitution. So I believe, because of all of what has been said, because of the legacy, and not just the legacy of the 8th Amendment, but because of its live impact on the lives of women in this state, we have an obligation, I believe, to repeal the 8th Amendment, but in the first instance, at the very least, extend the most basic commodity of any democracy to its citizens, and that is to give them a democratic vote and a democratic say in relation to this institution. And I have touched on the history of the 8th and indeed its live impact, and I wouldn't even begin to try and relay some of the historic stories and experiences that relate to it, that have been articulated by Senators Kelleher and Batsik and others so ably and so sincerely. I believe my trying to do that would only do it an injustice and a disservice. It has been said in this House why the 8th Amendment should go. This year, we marked the centenary of some women getting the vote 100 years ago. We'll also mark the historic 1918 election and the creation of the First Dáil. Again, I would contest to Seanad I, regardless of their view on the broader issue. Give people their say, give them the opportunity to take part in this democratic expression, which I believe is fundamentally required to help save the lives of women who have been forced into such dangerous and such precarious situations that they should never have to have faced. I don't believe our anatomies should feature in any constitution. I don't believe a man's ever would, and I don't believe there is a place for a woman's in any constitution moving forward. So I'll be campaigning, Minister, for a repeal of the 8th Amendment. I only wish I had a vote in that election, then I would vote for a repeal of the 8th Amendment as well. And it would be remiss of me, I don't say this to be politically contentious, but it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge women in the 6 counties who won't even have the kind of situation or the opportunity afforded to them that hopefully the women of this state will in the next number of months. I hope we can ultimately get to the situation where not only women don't have to travel from Dublin or Galway or Cork to Liverpool or London, but that women from Ballycastle and Belfast and Newry don't have to travel to Dublin, or women from Derry or Omagh into Donnghaile. That's my hope moving forward. And it's my hope because, Minister, like many other colleagues have said, in this instance, I trust women, but I also trust our doctors, I trust our clinicians, I trust our healthcare professionals, I trust the experts on law and science who presented to the 8th Committee. And there will be lots of statements on this campaign during this campaign, hopefully, if this bill passes, about this issue, and they'll be made both inside these houses. And I think we have set a good example tonight in terms of the tone, and I hope that example and that tone prevails inside the Oireachtas as we move ahead. But there will be many statements made inside and outside this Oireachtas. But I think the most profound statement that has to be made has to come from the people of this state themselves. They have to have the ultimate say. Men and women, and I believe that's an important point to make, men and women have to have their say, and I would contest, and I would hope, and I would aspire to the situation where they make the right decision and that we see a repeal of the 8th Amendment. So, Seanad I.
Thanks very much.